Hey there, fellow marketers and marketing students. Professor Walters here, and today we're back in the classroom. And today we're going to talk about is secondary data. And this is basically data that you collect for your marketing research that you're going to use that someone else has already done for you. So if you've ever written a paper and you search on Google or Wikipedia or wherever to find information that people have already done, that's secondary research. You're getting the data that someone has already collected. It's been previously collected for other research. Now, it might not be for the exact thing you wanted to do, but it could relate to it, and that's kind of nice. And so if we look at some examples that you might see of secondary data, if you're looking at what we call government census data. So every 10 years in the US, the government does a census. They count how many people live in the city, what do people do, there's different things like what's your background, things like that. They collect that information, and so you can collect that. The government has that information. It's free to get. Go to I think it's like census.gov. You can figure out this information. You can research through it all you want. Also, if you want to look at it in terms of secondary data, you can look at Wikipedia. It's not necessarily the most trustworthy source of stuff, but it's a collection of data you can kind of learn from and get an idea from. Other times, secondary data could be like syndicated data that's collected by companies. So like Nielsen is a big marketing firm, a marketing research firm that collects a lot of information to see how consumers act, how they work and stuff like that. I could talk to them and get information. Hey, what's the best way to speak to 19-year-old students, 20-year-old students that I have in my class? And so they can give us a background of, in general, 19 to 20-year-old students like X, Y, and Z. Okay, good to know. So maybe I can do a better job of teaching my class. And the thing is, if your company collects data, there's sales data from previous years, there's forecast, the forecast is another thing, but there's sales past days, old client lists and stuff like that. This is all data that's already been collected. So that's secondary data. And what's cool about secondary data and research is, one, it saves you a lot of time. Do you really want to do all the research and ask all the questions and do all the mathematical formulas and all those things? No, of course not. Nobody wants to do that. So if the stuff's already there, great. It's already collected. Also, what's nice, like census.gov stuff and Wikipedia and all this stuff you find online, it's usually free or really inexpensive. Sometimes you got to pay more for it, like if you want to get stuff from Nielsen or a marketing firm, they'll make you pay for it. But hey, if they already have it done, it's cheaper than if you do it on your own. So that's kind of nice. And the thing is by doing this secondary research, and to get that secondary data, it gives you a good idea of what's going on. It gives you kind of a feel for the market, a feel what's going on, what I'm looking for, and actually help you find some of the problems you hadn't thought about. Like, oh, I hadn't thought about those things. Like when you go and you research a place you're going to go on vacation and you find a don't have visited place at Walters World. Like, oh, yeah, I never thought about, you have to pay for the bread in Portugal sometimes. Yeah, it's like, oh, now that's a whole other thing I got to think about. Thanks for letting me know, secondary research, because I didn't even think to ask about that. But the thing is as good as secondary research is, how it makes your life easier and less difficult, and it's free or relatively free, and it's already been done, there are some issues with it. One, the study might not be relevant to what you're actually looking for. So if I'm looking up, okay, I want to go to Portugal on vacation. Well, I don't have any books on Portugal, but I got some books for Spain that's been done, and people like that. Well, Spain is kind of like Portugal, but it's not. So it's not super relevant to you, or maybe it's not timely for you. Like if I'm looking at housing prices and comparing housing prices today to 2009 and 10 when the financial crisis hit then, it's not really going to help, especially if I look at 2007 when the housing prices were going up before they crashed down. It's not really relevant to what I'm doing right now. It's kind of like, since I work with college students, I see the trends change. I see what's popping with them changes. And 5 or 6, 7 years ago, Twitter was the rage, and then Snapchat was the rage, then Instagram was the rage, and it kind of cycles through. And you tell me what was important to Twitter to 20-year-olds 10 years ago, it doesn't matter because they're 30 now. And so you might have it, so it's just not timely or very helpful what you want to do. So that could be a problem. Another thing is you might find biases in your sources. Have you ever noticed when you look at political polls, it's almost like you can tell which newspaper did it by the answers you get? You're like, well, of course. Well, they tend to have a bias to who they ask. And the thing is, you could have those biases in there. Do you always believe what you read in Wikipedia? Okay, it gives me a rough idea, but I'm definitely not going to cite that in my job. I got to find a real citation here. And so you want to do that. But also one of the big issues that I see, and this is me as a marketer, I always call in question the methodology used in collecting data. Because secondary data, you don't know what they did. Did they actually go out and talk to people, or did they just guess at it? How many people did they ask? Have you ever seen it? Well, a poll of 100 Americans, there's 320 million Americans, and you ask 100? Well, yeah, I mean, I could pick 100 of my friends to say, who's the greatest YouTube channel ever? They'll be like, Professor Walters, of course. Well, 100% of people choose Professor Walters when there's probably only like 101 people that know about this channel. And so you gotta really be careful because it's very easy to like manipulate those things. I mean, think about it. How many times have you heard 3 out of 4 dentists prefer Aquafresh and 4 out of 5 dentists prefer Colgate? I'm like, wait a minute, that's more than 100% of the dentists. What's going on here? Well, you have to think about is how do they ask that question? Who do they ask it to? When do they ask it? Because, I mean, that can be a really big influence. And if you think about it, if they're doing a poll and they're only calling between 10 and 2 during the day, well, do you answer a random phone call on your private phone during the day? You're like, no, it's a robocall. You hang up. I mean, your boss will get upset if you're answering random calls, like you only answer your work phone. So right there, you're eliminating a bunch of people. So you're not getting everybody. So it's not like it's a perfect example of stuff. And we have a video talking about samples and stuff like that that you can watch to help out. But really, the methodology is something you really need to look into. How do they ask the questions? When do they ask the questions? How many people did they ask? That will really influence how good your secondary data is. That's why it's always important to know the source of that secondary data. That's why like you want to have a more reputable source than like a Wikipedia or something like that. Okay? So I hope that helps you understand a little bit about the pros and cons and what secondary data is and how you can use it in your projects. You can use it to learn more about your industry or your competitors and stuff like that, because you can really learn a lot from those things. And even if they're not always perfect, at least it can kind of point you in the right way. And when you're doing research, it's always good to do that secondary research first, because then you get a good idea of what you should ask in your primary research. What more should we know? Anyway, I hope this helps you know a little bit more. If you're a marketing student getting ready for an exam, good luck. If you're a marketer yourself or an entrepreneur trying to figure out some market research to do on your own, I hope this helps you as well. We have plenty more marketing research and marketing videos on our channel here, so hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you want to get our new videos when they come out, and we always appreciate your likes, and we do appreciate helping you on your journey to success. Bye from Vienna.